Welcome to Imagine BL Story. My name is Riev, and I'm wishing you a joyful, exciting, and love-filled holiday season. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy today's holiday special story. The automatic doors slid open at 11:47 p.m., letting in a blast of December cold that made the fluorescent lights flicker. Shane looked up from restocking the cereal aisle, already knowing who it would be. And Omega, in his usual expensive coat, walked in like he owned the place, snow dusting his dark hair, and headed straight for the produce section. "Daddy, it's the Apple Man," Sophie called from her spot behind the checkout counter, where she was supposed to be doing homework but was actually drawing Christmas trees on receipt paper. Shane smiled despite his exhaustion. "Keep your voice down, sweetheart, and finish your math before midnight." "But I want to say hi." "You can say hi when he checks out. Like always." This had been their routine for 2 months now. Every single night around midnight, the same Omega would appear, by exactly one item, usually an apple or an orange, sometimes a single banana, make polite small talk at the register, and disappear back into the expensive car that idled in the parking lot. Sophie was convinced he was poor and couldn't afford more than one piece of fruit. Shane knew better. The Omega's coat probably cost more than Shane made in 3 months. The watch on his wrist could have paid Sophie's insulin bills for a year. And the way he moved, the way he spoke, the quiet confidence. This was someone who'd never struggled for anything in his life, which made his nightly visits even stranger. Tonight, the Omega picked up a single Granny Smith apple, examined it like he was appraising a diamond, and walked to the register where Sophie was already bouncing on her stool. "Hi, Mr. J," she chirped. "Good evening, Sophie. Still working hard, I see." The Omega's voice was warm, cultured, nothing like the usual late-night customers who stumbled in drunk or desperate. "I'm doing math. It's terrible. Math is only terrible until it starts making sense. Then it's magic." He set the apple on the counter, and Sophie rang it up with exaggerated importance. "That'll be $1.29, please." Jay pulled out his wallet. Leather, thick with cards, and Sophie's eyes went wide. She dug into her pocket and slapped 2 quarters, a dime, and 4 pennies onto the counter. "Here, I'll pay for it tonight. You come here every day and only buy one thing. You must be saving money, right? My daddy says saving is important." Shane, restocking the cereal 3 aisles over, felt his face heat. "Sophie," but Jay was already laughing, a genuine sound that transformed his usually serious face. "That's very generous of you, Sophie, but I can afford the apple." "Are you sure? Because if you're hungry, Daddy brings home the almost expired sandwiches sometimes. We could share." "Sophie Marie Henderson, stop offering our food to customers," Shane called, abandoning the cereal boxes and heading to the register. "I'm so sorry, sir. She doesn't understand. That kindness should be freely given?" Jay's dark eyes met Shane's, and something flickered there. Amusement, interest. "I think she understands perfectly." Shane cleared his throat, suddenly aware of how rumpled he must look. 14 hours into a double shift, hair a mess, name tag crooked. "She's 7. She doesn't have a filter yet. The world would be better if more people didn't." Jay gently pushed Sophie's coins back across the counter. "Keep your money, sweetheart. But thank you for the offer. It means more than you know." Sophie beamed. "Okay. Merry almost Christmas." "Merry almost Christmas to you, too." Jay handed Shane a 20 for the apple. As Shane made a change, he felt the Omega watching him. It wasn't the first time. For 2 months, these midnight visits had been growing longer, the small talk stretching from 30 seconds to 5 minutes to, last week, almost 15 minutes of conversation about nothing and everything. Shane still hadn't figured out why. "Big plans for Christmas?" Jay asked, pocketing his change but not moving toward the door. "Work, mostly. Someone's got to keep the store running for last-minute shoppers." Shane smiled tiredly. "You? Quiet evening. Probably work through it, if I'm honest." "On Christmas? That's depressing," says the man working a double shift on Christmas Eve. "Touché." Shane handed over the bagged apple. "Well, enjoy your single apple. As always." Jay's lips curved slightly. "I always do. Good night, Shane." "Sophie." "Night, Mr. J." Sophie waved enthusiastically. The Omega walked out into the snow, and through the windows, Shane watched him slip into the back of a black sedan that definitely had a driver. "I like him," Sophie announced, returning to her receipt paper artwork. "He's nice, and he smells good." "Aha!" Shane went back to his cereal boxes, trying not to think about how right she was. The Omega did smell good. Something expensive and clean that lingered in the store long after he left. Daddy. Do you think Santa knows we can't afford a real present this year? Shane's chest tightened. We talked about this, baby. You're getting your insulin pump supplies, and that's the most important present. I know. Madison at school is getting a bike, and Trevor's getting a PlayStation. And you're getting to stay healthy. That's better than any toy. Sophie nodded, but her shoulders slumped a little. Shane abandoned the cereal again and crouched beside her stool. Hey, look at me. When she did, he smoothed her hair back. I know this year is hard. I know we don't have what we used to, but we have each other, right? And that's what matters. I know, Daddy. She hugged him tight. I'm not sad. I promise. She was lying. 7-year-olds were terrible liars. But Shane just kissed her forehead and let her get back to her drawings, swallowing down the familiar guilt that had lived in his throat since the divorce, since losing his job, since becoming the kind of father who worked double shifts at a grocery store and still couldn't afford to give his daughter a real Christmas. His phone buzzed. A reminder. Sophie's insulin prescription is ready for pickup. $347 due. 2 more shifts. He just needed 2 more shifts and he'd have enough. The doors slid open again. Actual customers this time, drunk college kids buying chips and energy drinks. Shane painted on his customer service smile and got back to work. He didn't let himself think about expensive Omegas who bought single apples. He definitely didn't let himself think about the way Jay's eyes had lingered on him, warm and curious. Like Shane was something worth looking at. That way laid disappointment. And Shane had had enough of that to last a lifetime. The store was supposed to close at 11 p.m. on December 23rd for deep cleaning and restocking before the Christmas Eve rush. Shane had volunteered for the overnight shift, time and a half pay, and Sophie was sleeping over at his sister's house. He'd been alone in the store for 3 hours, methodically working through the stockroom deliveries, when the back door opened. We're closed, Shane turned, ready to tell whoever it was to come back tomorrow. Jay stood in the doorway, snowflakes melting in his hair, wearing jeans and a simple sweater instead of his usual expensive coat. He looked almost normal. I know you're closed, the Omega said. I saw your car in the lot. Thought you might want some help. Shane blinked. Help. Restocking. Organizing. Whatever you're doing at. Jay checked his watch. 2 in the morning by yourself in an empty grocery store. Why would you want to help me restock shelves? Jay stepped inside, letting the door close behind him. Because I've been coming to this store every night for 2 months, buying single pieces of fruit like an idiot, trying to work up the courage to ask you out. And you haven't noticed, so I'm trying a different approach. The stack of canned goods in Shane's hands suddenly felt very heavy. You've been, what? Flirting with you, apparently very badly. Jay moved closer, and in the harsh stockroom lighting, Shane could see faint circles under his eyes, the slight tension in his shoulders. I'm Jay Russo. I'm a terrible flirt. I have more money than sense, and I think you're the most beautiful alpha I've ever seen. Shane's brain short-circuited somewhere around beautiful. I work at a grocery store. I know. I have a 7-year-old daughter. Sophie. She offered to pay for my apple. I'm a little in love with her too. I'm divorced. I'm aware. You mentioned it. Week 3, 12:37 a.m. While talking about how you didn't get Sophie the toy she wanted because medical bills are more important. Jay's smile was soft. I've been paying attention, Shane. Why? The word came out rougher than intended. Why would someone like you pay attention to someone like me? Because 2 months ago, I walked into the store at midnight because I couldn't sleep. Because I come here every Christmas season since my mother died. Because she used to work here when I was young, and it's the only place I feel close to her anymore. Jay's voice went quiet. And I saw you reorganizing the holiday display at 1 in the morning, humming to yourself, and you looked peaceful, happy even, despite clearly being exhausted. And I wanted to know how you did that. Shane set the cans down before he dropped them. Your mother worked here? 20 years ago. Night shift just like you. She was a single parent too. Jay walked along the shelves, fingers trailing over boxes. She died when I was 15. Car accident on her way home from this store. I'm sorry. It was a long time ago, but Jay's voice carried old grief. I built my company in her honor, made more money than she ever dreamed of. But every Christmas I come back here, buy something small. Remember when we had nothing but each other, and it was enough. Shane's throat felt tight. That's why you only buy one thing. That's all she could ever afford. One piece of fruit to split between us. Jay turned back to him. And then 2 months ago I saw you, and I started coming every night instead of just Christmas. Started staying longer. Started hoping you'd notice. I noticed. The confession slipped out. I just didn't think someone like you would be interested in someone like me. Someone like you, Jay repeated. You mean an alpha who works 2 jobs to afford his daughter's medication? Who brings her to work because childcare is expensive? Who talks to drunk customers with patience and kindness even when they're rude? Who reorganizes the cereal by color because it makes Sophie laugh? You noticed that? I notice everything about you. Jay stepped closer. So here's my different approach. Can I help you restock these shelves? Can we spend the next few hours talking? And can I take you to dinner after Christmas? When you're not exhausted and I'm not lurking in your store like some kind of fruit-buying stalker. Shane laughed. Couldn't help it. You really are a terrible flirt. I'm aware. My assistant says I have the romantic skills of a brick. Your assistant is harsh. She's accurate. Jay's smile was crooked, uncertain. So, can I stay? Shane should say no. Should maintain boundaries. Should protect himself and Sophie from getting attached to someone so far out of their league. Instead, he heard himself say, canned goods section. Everything alphabetized. Think you can handle it? Jay's whole face lit up. I have an MBA from Princeton. I think I can manage alphabet soup. Smartass. You have no idea. They worked in comfortable silence for a while. The only sounds the rustle of boxes and the hum of refrigerator units. Outside, snow fell steadily, blanketing the empty parking lot. Can I ask you something? Shane said eventually, shelving green beans. Why didn't you just ask me out? Why the 2 months of single apples? Jay was quiet for a long moment. Because the last time I was interested in someone, I led with my money, my company, my status, and they loved all of that. None of me. He set down a can of corn carefully. I wanted to see if you'd notice me without knowing any of that. If you'd see me as just Jay, the guy who buys apples at midnight. And did I? You called me sir for 6 weeks. So no, not exactly the connection I was hoping for. But Jay's tone was fond, not bitter. That's when I realized I needed to actually use words. Revolutionary concept. Shane laughed again, and it felt good. Easy. When was the last time something had felt easy? For what it's worth, he said. I did notice you. I just thought you were out of my league. Out of your Shane, you're raising a child alone while working 2 jobs and still managing to be kind to every person who walks through that door. You're not out of anyone's league. You're the standard everyone else should be measured against. The sincerity in Jay's voice made Shane's chest ache. He stared down at Jay. The Omega had to tilt his head back to meet Shane's eyes, the height difference suddenly feeling significant in the quiet intimacy of the moment. Shane took in the earnest expression on Jay's face. The way his brown eyes held nothing but honesty and something that looked dangerously close to admiration. No one had ever looked at Shane like that. Like he was worth something beyond the labor he provided, the shifts he covered, the meals he served. Shane's alpha scent betrayed him completely, flooding the small space between them with warmth and involuntary response. His usual pine and coffee scent going deeper, richer, protective in ways he couldn't control. The alpha pheromones were responding to Jay's Omega presence, broadcasting mine, protect, cherish despite Shane's best efforts to suppress them. Jay's Omega biology would absolutely notice the change, would recognize it for what it was. Attraction, possessiveness, the beginning of a claim Shane had no right to make. You! Shane's voice caught, rough with emotion and alpha instinct. He looked away from those upturned eyes, overwhelmed by the intensity of the moment, by his own traitorous alpha biology that was screaming, this Omega sees you, this Omega values you, this Omega could be yours. You can't just say things like that. Well, I absolutely can, Jay said without skipping a beat and proceeded to pick a box of canned beef and started arranging them on the shelf. My ex-husband didn't think so. Then your ex-husband is an idiot. He left me because I lost my job, because I couldn't provide the lifestyle he wanted. Shane stared at the shelf in front of him. Because I was a failure as an alpha. You're not a failure. I work at a grocery store at 2 in the morning. You're surviving. That's not failure. That's strength. Shane's vision blurred. He blinked hard, focusing on the cans. I can't give Sophie a real Christmas. What kind of father can't give his kid Christmas? Warm hands settled on his shoulders, turning him around. Jay's dark eyes were fierce. The kind who brings her to work because being together matters more than perfect circumstances. The kind who teaches her kindness by example. Jay's grip tightened slightly. You're a good father, Shane. Don't let anyone, including yourself, tell you different. Tear escaped, then another, and then Jay was pulling him into a hug, and Shane was letting him, breathing in that expensive clean scent and trying not to fall apart completely in the canned goods aisle. Sorry, he mumbled into Jay's shoulder. This is unprofessional. We're restocking soup at 2 a.m. I think we're past professional. Jay's hand moved to his hair, gentle. It's okay. Let it out. So Shane did. Shane's phone rang at 6 a.m. on Christmas morning. He grabbed it groggily from his nightstand. He'd gotten home from the store at 4 a.m. and collapsed into bed. Unknown number. Hello, Daddy. Sophie's voice was bright, excited. Daddy, you have to come to Aunt Marie's house right now. Baby, it's 6 in the morning. There's a present, a huge present, and it has my name on it. Shane sat up, suddenly awake. What? Come see. Please, please, please. His sister's voice came on the line. Shane, you need to get over here. There's a situation. 20 minutes later, Shane stood in his sister's driveway, staring at a brand new adaptive bicycle with training wheels, a custom seat, and a bow the size of a small car stuck to the handlebars. Sophie was already trying to climb on it, still in her pajamas, squealing with delight. What the hell? Shane breathed. Marie handed him a card. This was attached. He opened it with shaking hands. Sophie, your father said the most important gift was keeping you healthy. He's right, but you also deserve to be a kid. Merry Christmas. Your friend who buys apples. P.S. Shane, let her be 7. I'll help with the rest. D. Who is D? Marie asked. Shane couldn't answer. His throat had closed up entirely. His phone buzzed. Jay, before you panic, I have a niece Sophie's age. I know what 7-year-olds like. And before you try to return it, you can't. It's custom-made for her prescription needs. Non-returnable. Jay, also, there's a trust fund for her medical expenses. My lawyer will contact you after Christmas. Don't argue. I have more money than I know what to do with, and your daughter offered to buy my apple with her lunch money. Fair trade. Jay, Merry Christmas. Shane. Shane sat down hard on his sister's porch steps. Shane? Marie crouched beside him. Are you okay? Who is this person? I have no idea, he whispered. But I think I might be in love with him. Sophie rode past on her new bike, laughing, and for the first time in 2 years, Shane felt something other than crushing guilt. He felt hope. But just like his luck, the hope quickly fizzled out when he received the news on the 31st of December that the grocery store was scheduled for demolition on January 15th. Corporate buyout, the manager had explained sadly. New development coming. Everyone would be transferred to other locations or let go with severance. Shane had spent the week between Christmas and New Year's applying for jobs, updating his resume, trying not to panic about starting over again. He was restocking the produce section, his last closing shift before the new year. When the doors opened at 11:50 p.m., Jay walked in carrying a single orange. Shane's heart did something complicated in his chest. You're late, he said. Usually you're here by 11:47. I had a meeting that ran long. Jay approached the counter, set down the orange. How's Sophie? Does she like the bike? She hasn't gotten off it except to sleep and eat. My sister thinks she's going to wear a path in her driveway. Shane rang up the orange slowly. You can't just buy my daughter custom medical equipment and set up a trust fund. I can, actually. I'm quite wealthy. Jay! It's done, Shane. The paperwork is filed. Sophie's medical expenses are covered through college. You can't change it. Jay's expression was calm, certain. And before you argue about pride or charity or whatever alpha nonsense you're working yourself up to, it's not charity. It's me making sure someone I care about doesn't have to choose between Christmas and insulin ever again. You don't even know us. I know Sophie offered to share her almost expired sandwiches. I know you work yourself to exhaustion to take care of her. I know you reorganize cereal by color to make her smile. Jay leaned against the counter. I know enough. Shane's hands shook as he bagged the orange. Why? Because my mother worked herself to death in this store trying to give me a better life. Because I watched her sacrifice everything and couldn't help her. Jay's voice went rough. Because I have the power to make sure another single parent doesn't have to make those same impossible choices. And because he stopped, swallowed. Because I'm falling for you, and I want to take care of the people I'm falling for. The store was completely silent except for the hum of the freezers. You're falling for me? Shane repeated. Yes. The guy who works at a grocery store. The guy who makes midnight feel less lonely. The guy whose daughter thinks I'm poor and tries to share her lunch money. The guy who cried in my arms over canned soup and let me see him break. Jay's eyes were steady. That guy. I'm falling for that guy. Shane came around the counter slowly. I don't have anything to offer you. You have everything I want. I'm a broke single father with trust issues and an ex-husband who destroyed my confidence. No, that's not what you are. Jay reached out carefully, giving Shane time to pull away. You're someone I want to know everything about. Shane let Jay take his hand. I work closing shift on New Year's Eve. I know. I checked the schedule. The store closes at 6. Sophie's with my sister until tomorrow. I know that too. So why are you here at midnight? Jay's smile was soft. Because this is when I see you. And I'm greedy for every minute I can get. Shane's laugh was shaky. You're really bad at this. I'm aware. You're standing in a closing grocery store at midnight on New Year's Eve because you're greedy for minutes. I'm an all-or-nothing kind of person. Jay squeezed his hand gently. If that's too much, tell me now. I'll back off. I'll disappear. But if there's a chance, any chance, you might feel even a fraction of what I'm feeling, I want to know. Shane looked at their joined hands. At the Omega who'd been buying single pieces of fruit for 2 months just to talk to him. At the person who saw his exhaustion and struggling and daughter and wanted all of it anyway. My shift ends at 6, he said quietly. I know. There's a diner 3 blocks from here. They do a New Year's Eve dinner special. I've heard. Would you want to have dinner with me? Actual dinner, not midnight restocking. Jay's whole face transformed. I would love nothing more. It's a cheap diner. Not fancy. I don't care about fancy. And Sophie might crash our second date. She's very invested in your apple buying habits. I'm counting on it. Shane laughed, and this time it came easily. You're something else. Is that a good thing? I'm still deciding. Jay grinned, and Shane realized he'd never seen the Omega look this happy, this unguarded. Take all the time you need, Jay said. I'm not going anywhere. Outside, fireworks started early somewhere in the city. Through the store windows, Shane could see colors blooming against the dark sky. One condition, he said. Anything. You have to stop buying single apples. It's weird. Absolutely not. It's my signature move. It's a terrible signature move. You noticed me, didn't you? Shane shook his head, but he was smiling. Fine. Keep buying apples like a weirdo. Thank you. They stood there in the empty store, holding hands, watching fireworks through the windows as midnight approached. Jay's thumb traced circles on Shane's wrist, and the Omega's scent, warm vanilla and something expensive Shane couldn't name, wrapped around him like a promise. Can I kiss you? Jay asked softly. Shane's heart stuttered. Here, now, before I lose my nerve and go back to buying apples like a coward. A laugh bubbled up, nervous and genuine. You're not a coward. Then say yes. Outside, the countdown started. Distant voices shouting numbers, getting closer to midnight. Yes, Shane breathed. Jay's hand came up to cup his jaw, gentle and sure, and then they were kissing, soft at first, tentative, like they were both afraid of breaking something precious. Shane felt the first brush of Jay's lips against his, and his entire world narrowed to that single point of contact. It had been so long. Years. He'd forgotten what this felt like. The warmth, the softness, the electricity that sparked through his entire body at something as simple as a kiss. He'd avoided this. Deliberately. Completely. Relationships required time he didn't have. Money he couldn't spare. Emotional bandwidth that was already stretched too thin between Lily and survival. He'd convinced himself he didn't need it, didn't miss it, didn't ache for the simple human connection of being wanted. He'd been lying to himself. Because this, Jay's lips moving against his, the Omega's quiet intake of breath, the way his free hand clutched at Shane's shirt like he was anchoring himself. This felt like coming home after years of being lost. Then Jay's scent spiked, sweet and intoxicating, wrapping around Shane like an invitation, and Shane's alpha instincts roared to life. He pulled the Omega closer, one hand sliding to Jay's waist, the other threading through his dark hair, deepening the kiss with a hunger he hadn't let himself feel in so long. Jay melted against him with a quiet sound, half sigh, half whimper, that made every nerve ending sing. Their scents tangled together, Shane's cedar and rain mixing with Jay's vanilla and warmth, until the air between them felt thick with it, heavy with pheromones and promise and possibility. Outside, the countdown hit 0. Happy New Year! They broke apart just enough to breathe, both panting, their lips still almost touching. Happy New Year, Jay, Shane whispered against his mouth, his voice rough with emotion and want. Happy New Year, Shane. Jay's smile was brilliant, dazed, his brown eyes dark and full of everything Shane was feeling. Then they were kissing again, softer this time but no less intense, and Shane let himself sink into it, let himself have this moment. He didn't know what happened next. Didn't know if this could actually work with his impossible schedule and his daughter and his complete lack of anything to offer someone like Jay. Didn't know if this was just a beautiful moment that would fade with the fireworks, or if it was the beginning of something real. But right now, with Jay's arms around his neck and their scents mingling like they were made to fit together, Shane didn't care about the future. He just wanted to bask in this feeling, this gift that Christmas, or maybe fate, or maybe just the universe taking pity on him, had brought his way. When they finally broke apart for real, both breathing hard, Jay's eyes were dark and dazed, his lips kiss-swollen and perfect. "Oh," he whispered. "Yeah." Shane's heart was pounding so loud he was sure Jay could hear it. "Oh, that was better than apples?" Jay laughed, pressing their foreheads together, his hands still fisted in Shane's shirt like he couldn't quite let go yet. "So much better than apples." The fireworks reached their crescendo outside, painting the store in bursts of gold and silver, and Shane thought maybe, just maybe, he was allowed to have this moment, this person, this feeling of being wanted not for what he could provide or how hard he could work, but just for being himself. Maybe, just for tonight, he could believe in Christmas miracles after all. Christmas morning, Jay showed up at Marie's house with Sophie's bike and stayed for breakfast. Then lunch. Then dinner, because Sophie refused to let him leave and kept showing him every feature of her new bike in exhaustive detail. Shane watched them together. Jay crouched down to Sophie's level, listening with genuine interest as she explained the proper technique for ringing her handlebar bell, and felt something settle in his chest. His ex had never looked at Sophie like that, like she mattered more than his phone, his image, his next business deal. "Your Omega is weird," Marie said, appearing at Shane's elbow with coffee. "He's not my Omega. He's absolutely your Omega. He bought your daughter a custom bike and set up a trust fund. That's Omega nesting behavior without the actual nest." Shane choked on his coffee. "It's not, we're not. You will be." Marie smiled. "And for what it's worth, I like him. Sophie likes him. And you look happier than you've been in 2 years." She was right. Shane was happy. Their first real date was New Year's Day, the diner 3 blocks from the store, just like he'd promised. Jay showed up in jeans and a sweater, driving himself in a modest sedan that definitely wasn't his usual car. "Trying not to scare me off?" Shane teased. "Trying to prove I can be normal." Jay opened the diner door for him. "How am I doing?" "Terrible. You bought out the trust fund. Normal people don't do that." "Noted. I'll work on it." They talked for 3 hours. About everything and nothing. Jay's company, tech development, something about sustainable infrastructure that went over Shane's head but that Jay explained with infectious enthusiasm. Shane's old job in financial consulting, how he'd loved the work but burned out trying to prove himself. Sophie's diagnosis, the divorce, the struggle. "He left because you lost your job?" Jay's expression darkened. "What kind of?" "The kind who married me for my salary, not for me." Shane stirred his coffee. "I didn't see it until it was too late. Or maybe I saw it and ignored it because I wanted to believe someone wanted me. Someone does want you. Someone wealthy and successful and completely out of my league." "There are no leagues." Jay reached across the table, took his hand. "There's just people trying to find each other in the mess. And I found you. So no more league talk." Shane squeezed his fingers. "Bossy. You have no idea." They went on more dates. Movies with Sophie, who sat between them and provided running commentary. Museums where Jay knew oddly specific facts about every exhibit. Long walks through the city where they just talked, breath misting in the cold air, hands eventually finding each other. Jay was patient, never pushed, let Shane set the pace. And slowly, carefully, Shane let himself fall. The demolition notice came in mid-January. Shane was cleaning out his locker in the break room when the manager found him. I'm sorry, Shane. Corporate's final decision. Building comes down February 1st. Everyone's getting severance packages and transfer offers. Shane nodded numbly. He'd known it was coming, had been preparing, but it still felt like losing something important. That night, over dinner at Jay's brownstone, because somehow that had become their routine, eating together while Sophie did homework at the kitchen island. Shane mentioned the demolition. Jay went very still. February 1st? Yeah, fast, I know. But corporate wants the land for development. What kind of development? Condos, I think? High-end. Shane pushed food around his plate. It's fine. I have leads on other jobs. Sophie looked up from her math. But that's where you met. They can't knock it down. Baby, they own the building. They can do what they want. That's stupid. She crossed her arms. Mr. J, can't you buy it? You're rich. Sophie. Shane's face heated. You can't just ask people to buy buildings. But Jay was looking at Sophie with an odd expression. What would I do with a grocery store? Make it better. Bigger. Keep all the nice workers and add more stuff. And keep aisle 7 exactly the same because that's where you and Daddy had your first real talk. Sophie Marie. Actually, Jay interrupted softly. That's not a bad idea. Shane stared at him. You're not seriously considering. I've been looking for a new project. Something community-focused. Jay's eyes were bright now, calculating. And that location is prime real estate. If I bought the property and the surrounding lots, we could build something significant. A full community center. Grocery services for lower-income families. Job training programs. Medical resources. That would cost millions. I have millions. Jay turned to him fully. What if we did this together? You know what the community needs. I have the resources. We could build something that actually helps people instead of just another luxury condo development. You'd manage it, run it, make the decisions. It would be yours, ours, to shape however we want. Jay's hand found his across the table. What do you say? Shane's heart was pounding again. You want to build a community center. With me. I want to build a future. With you. Jay's thumb stroked over his knuckles. If you'll let me. Sophie was bouncing in her seat. Say yes, Daddy. Say yes. Shane looked at the Omega across from him, brilliant and generous and somehow wanting to build something with a broke single father who'd lost everything. Yes, he whispered. Okay, yes. Jay's smile could have lit the whole city. The year that followed was chaos in the best way. Meetings with architects and city planners. Community forums where they listened to what people actually needed. Jay teaching Shane the business side, budgets and projections and negotiation tactics that made Shane's old consulting skills feel rusty but still relevant. Shane teaching Jay about people, how to listen without fixing, how to build trust, how to make a space feel welcoming instead of institutional. They worked together seamlessly, and somewhere between blueprint revisions and permit applications, Shane realized he'd stopped feeling like a failure. He'd found his strength again, not in a salary or a title but in purpose, in building something that mattered. In being exactly what Jay needed. A partner who understood struggle, who kept him grounded, who reminded him that wealth meant nothing without humanity. Their second kiss had been New Year's Eve. Their third was in Jay's office after a particularly difficult city council meeting, both of them exhausted and frustrated, until Jay had pulled him close and kissed him like he was the only thing keeping the Omega sane. The fourth was in front of Sophie, who'd walked in on them in the kitchen and announced, "Finally! I thought you'd never figure it out." By spring, Shane and Sophie had moved into the brownstone officially. Sophie's room was painted her favorite purple, with space for all her bikes and books. Shane's room was down the hall, but most nights he fell asleep in Jay's bed, wrapped in vanilla-scented safety. By summer, the community center was taking shape. Walls rising where grocery aisles used to be, the old checkout counter carefully preserved and restored. By fall, Jay proposed, not with fanfare or public spectacle, but on a quiet Sunday morning in their kitchen. Sophie was at a sleepover. They were making pancakes, and Jay had turned to him, flour on his cheek, and said, "Marry me." Shane had dropped the spatula. "What? Marry me, please. I want this us forever. I want to wake up with you every morning and fall asleep with you every night. I want to be Sophie's other parent officially. I want everything, Shane. With you." The ring was simple, perfect. Shane's hands shook as he held it. "I don't have anything to offer you. You have everything. You're everything." Jay cupped his face. "So say yes." Please say yes. Yes. Shane kissed him, tasting maple syrup and promises. Yes, you ridiculous Omega. Yes. The community center opened on Christmas Eve, exactly 1 year after that first real conversation in aisle 7. They stood together in the entrance, watching people stream in. Families, workers, everyone who'd made this possible. The plaque honoring Jay's mother gleamed on the wall. Sophie raced past with Jay's niece, both wearing matching sweaters, both laughing. And then Shane saw him, his ex-husband, standing near the door, looking around with calculating eyes that Shane remembered too well. Shane. Malin approached, smile practiced. This is incredible. I heard you were managing this place. That's amazing after everything. Shane felt Jay tense beside him. What do you want, Malin? I wanted to congratulate you. And Malin glanced at Jay. Talk about Sophie. Now that you're clearly doing better financially, maybe we should revisit custody. No. Malin blinked. I'm her father. You're a sperm donor who left when things got hard. Jay's voice was ice. Shane is her father, and he's been handling everything alone while you were busy trading up to your new partner. This is between me and Shane. Nothing is between you and Shane anymore. Jay stepped forward slightly. But if you'd like to make this legal, my lawyers are excellent. We can discuss your complete absence during Sophie's medical crisis, your failure to pay child support, your documented affair during the marriage. Should be a fascinating case. Malin's face went red. You can't threaten me. That wasn't a threat. That was information. Jay's smile was razor-sharp. The threat is this. If you ever approach my family again, my fiancée, my daughter, I will dedicate considerable resources to making your life extremely difficult. Do we understand each other? For a long moment, Malin just stared. Then his gaze slid to Shane. You're really with him? This Omega? This Omega is worth 10 of you, Shane said quietly. And yes, I'm really with him. So leave, Malin. And don't come back. Malin left. Jay's hand found Shane's, shaking slightly with residual anger. You called Sophie your daughter, Shane whispered. She is. Jay turned to him. I mean, I want her to be as much as I want her father to be mine. If that's okay. Shane pulled him into a kiss as an answer, not caring who saw, not caring about anything except this Omega who'd walked into a grocery store buying fruit and stayed to build a life. When they broke apart, Sophie was there, grinning. Does this mean Mr. J is my other dad now? If you want him to be, Shane said. Yes. She threw her arms around both of them. Can I call you Papa? Daddy and Papa. Jay's eyes were wet. I would be honored. Around them, the community center hummed with life and warmth and second chances. Outside, snow began to fall, soft and quiet, blanketing the city in white. And inside, wrapped in the arms of the family he'd built from midnight conversations and single pieces of fruit, Shane finally let himself believe in the impossible. He was enough. He'd always been enough. And now he had someone who saw that, really saw it, and chose to stay anyway. Not because of money or status or what Shane could provide, but because of who he was. Just Shane, and he couldn't be more happy than he is right now. Compliments of the seasons, my lovely listeners. May you find love and joy this beautiful season. Feliz Navidad. The end. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the story, tell me where you'll be spending this holiday season or how you plan to enjoy it. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the comments.